Hey guys, welcome to another weekly focus. I hope you all had a good week. So I'm going to show you guys the trades I had from last week, and I'm going to show you guys as well the trades I had this week. And so let's do a quick trade recap so I can take you guys through the trades from last week and this week as well. So let's do this real quick. Let's start with BTC. Alright, so if you remember, I had this position on BTC, so I was looking for, I had this sell position on BTC, and once I took this trade, it ran for like 3% and I didn't manage it properly, and then price pulled back. And I remember telling you guys, I think when I did the focus last week, I had my stops at break even, and then eventually I had to secure say 1%. So this closed eventually at say 1%, so I made just 1% from this position, even though I ran about 3-point-something%. The management on this was really poor, so that's it on this one. All right, let's look at the one I had this week. So once I closed the sell position on BTC, and then I went in with a buy. So I had a buy right here, and I haven't updated this right now, but if you look at price currently, I think we're around here. So I'm currently running at say about 1.89 or close to 2% on this position. All right, so that's it for BTC. Let's look at the other positions I had last week. So let's start with NAS. So with NAS100, I had this buy position right here. I took this buys on the 11th of September, and again I had a very wide stop loss because there's a swing position for me, so I had a wide stop loss so it could accommodate any pullbacks that could come in. So currently I have my stops moved to break even, and with my stops at break even, I'm just going to manage this accordingly, and as price moves to the upside progressively, and then I'll move my stops just to secure something from this position. Now the S&P500, a similar trade, I had this on the 11th of September as well. I had the buys right here. Stop loss was really wide just to accommodate any pullbacks, and then currently today is the 20th, price took off. We didn't really have a lot in terms of a drawdown because once I got in, the price just kept moving to the upside. I have my stops at break even right now, and I'm going to manage this accordingly as well. As if price keeps moving to the upside, then I'll keep moving, I'll keep trailing my stop loss just to lock in some profits. So right now my stop loss is at break even, and I'll visit this again once we do the market analysis today, and we'll just do a focus and see where price is most likely going to move to, and then we'll take it from there. So I have another position in on gold. So this one I got in on the 18th of September. So I had a buy position right here, so my stops was just below this point, and this buys, I had these buys immediately, let's say a couple of hours after the news release that came in. I think the rate cuts and stuff like that, if I'm not mistaken. So once this news release came out, we had a spike to the upside, spike to the downside, and I had my buy position right here. So looking at it right now, I have my stops moved to break even, and price is moving as planned. So I'm still holding this position, I still have it open, so I'm going to visit this one as well just to see if we intend closing this or holding it for more profits, and then so I'll update this one later on once we do the market analysis thing. So that's it for the trade recap. You've seen the positions I have currently running. You see the one on NAS, you see S&P, so those ones I'm really holding them for longer gains, and we'll see how price progresses. So let's do the focus for today. All right, so the first thing we'll look at every single time is the DXY, and if you understand the direction of the DXY, it makes it very easy for you to manage positions on other pairs, and it also makes it easy for you to take trades on other pairs. So let's look at this on the daily time frame. So the daily time frame is the highest time frame I look at, and the reason I do this is because this time frame makes it easy for me to work on, say, the interval I pick or the range I pick to work with. It suits my trading style. So for example, if you look at this distance from this cycle level to this cycle level, it takes say 1, 2, 3, so 3 days, and sometimes it takes say say 3 to about 7 or 3 to 14 days, and this move should be done. So if there's a consolidation like what you see right here, for price to move from here to here, it's probably going to take more time. So it's probably going to take about 7 to 14 days because of the consolidation. But without the consolidation, it's very easy for price to drop within 3 days from one psych level to the next psychological level. And that's why I like looking at the daily. Another reason is, if you understand what's happening on the daily time frame, all you have to do is zoom out. So if you zoom out on the daily time frame, you can see clearly what's happening on the weekly time frame if you know what you're looking at. So I don't look at the weekly, I don't look at the monthly, I do everything on the daily time frame. But just looking at the daily, I can tell you what's happening on the weekly time frame already. So let's move on and see. Let's analyze the DXY. So let's see what the DXY is currently doing. Let's see where the DXY is most likely going to move to, and from there we'll use this analysis and manage our positions on the other pairs and probably look for other tradable opportunities. So two concepts I use, two very basic concepts, keep it simple every time. So two concepts, the first one is psychological levels and the second concept is trend lines. So two basic concepts. So if you look at this right now on the daily time frame, so price has been moving to the downside, and that's simple because you have lower lows and you have lower highs. There's a lower low, there's a lower high. So price moved to the downside once it got to this point. So once price started trading below 101, which is a psychological level right here, price hasn't really made an impulsive move to the downside. So just going off of psychological levels, you can tell there's been a pause, or there's been this slowdown in terms of the momentum from the sellers. But this doesn't mean the sales are completed, like it doesn't mean the sellers have given up. So there's still a high possibility this sales could resume again, but as of now price is just ranging. So I'm going to take this off and we'll just focus on this piece of price action right here. Let me clean this. So I'm going to focus on this piece of price action right here, this one. So this is the only thing that makes sense to me right now. So if I can tell what is going to happen or where price is most likely going to move to, just looking at this and analyzing this, then it's going to make a lot of sense when we look at other pairs. So sometimes I have it correctly, sometimes I don't have it correct. So let's do it today. So going off of psychological levels, we have this level of 101 and we have this level of 100, so 100. So price is currently trading between 101 and 100. So if price keeps rejecting at this point of 101, the next level has to be 100. That's it. However, if this price moves to the upside above 101, if price moves above 101, we could get a test of 101 and we see price is headed to 102. Now, looking at it from this point on the daily time frame, let's get a little bit technical again. So we had these lows right here. We had these lows. We had this initial attempt from the sellers, and there was an inability for prices to go below this area. We had a pullback, we had another attempt at this point, and price took out these lows right here. But then we had buyers coming back in with this impulsive reaction right here, giving us this week. We had buyers stepping in, and we had a reaction as well from the sellers. So the reaction from the buyers and the sellers makes it look like there's a 50-50 chance for price to either move to the upside or move to the downside. So in a situation like this, I'll stick with the psychological levels. With a situation like this, I'll stick with the psychological levels. So the only question I'm asking myself is, where is price currently playing at? And if you look at it critically, you have 101 and 100. So price is playing within this range, 101, 100. If price keeps rejecting to go above this point, then the next level for me has to be 100. and that's it. So that's all I'm looking at currently. The only thing that is going to change my bias on this is if prices move to the upside and closes above 101, gives me a test of 101, then I know there's a high possibility for prices to move all the way to 102, taking out these highs. So those are all possibilities. Now I'm looking at this price currently sitting, say, below 101, and I'm looking for prices to drop and test 100. Now I have certain concerns, and I'll show you why I have these concerns once we move to lower time frames. And I think let's move to the 8-hour time frame and then progressively to the 4 hours and the hourly time frame, and I'll show you. So going off of psychological levels, price is trading below 101, so there's a high possibility prices will get to, say, 100. Now this reaction from the buyers might make it a little bit difficult, and I'll show you on the 8-hour time frame and lower time frames. I think maybe the 4-hour and the 1 hour will show everything clearly. All right, so looking at this on the 8-hour time frame, so we still have this level of 101. So once you step to lower time frames, the picture becomes clearer. So we had prices moving to the downside below 101. We had a test of this area. We had a reaction from the sellers. The news even came out, giving us this move right here. You have a reaction from the buyers, you have a reaction from the sellers. So looking at it from this point, there's just a 50-50 chance. Price can go to the upside, price can go to the downside. But if you stick to psychological levels, price moved to the downside after the sellers reacted, and we had another reaction from the buyers, but again price couldn't go above 101. So once I start moving to lower time frames, these are the things I'm looking at. I'm looking for the reactions from the buyers, and I'm looking at the reaction from the buyers, and I'm looking at the reaction from the sellers, just trying to make sense of what's happening. Now this piece of price action is really complicated right now, but looking at it, we've had this rejection at 101, so we should see prices moving all the way to 100. Now this is the concern I'm talking about. So we had these lows right here when the buyers came in. So once the sellers had this initial sell attempt, this is the low, the mid right here. So when you look at it, prices progressively making higher lows. So this was a low, the first one, this is the second one. Now if this price for some reason stops right here and you see prices moving to the upside, and let's say for some reason if this is the next low, then it's going to be very difficult for us to see prices moving all the way to 100, and that's because buyers have shown this reaction right here. And so everything that's happening at this point, you could see it as the push from the buyers. So that's a concern for me. So in as much as I'm looking at the reaction from 101 or the rejection from 101 and expecting prices to move all the way to 100, this right here is a major concern for me. These lows and stuff like this. Unless we see prices moving to the downside impulsively to take out this area, I'll be a little bit skeptical with the moves right now, and I'll just have to sit and watch and see what's happening. So if price finds it difficult to take out these lows and these lows, then you could see prices moving to the upside, getting a test of 101, and this could be headed to the upside for us to see prices testing 102. So that's what I'm looking at when it comes to the DXY. Now let's look at it from, say, the 4-hour time frame. So let's look at the 4-hour time frame. So the 4-hour time frame and the 8-hour time frame on the DXY, it's basically the same thing. So all the difference is you just see more price action. We had a move here, consolidation. We had a test, reaction from the sellers, reaction from the buyers, reaction from the sellers, inability for sellers to take out this area. Price made this low, reaction from the buyers. So currently I just want to monitor and see how far the sellers are going to go to the downside, because if they find it difficult to take out an area like this, we could see prices moving to the upside. So that's what I'm looking at. But going off of the principle of psychological levels, once you have a rejection at this psychological level, price came through, tested. So price has tested this area 2 times. This was the first time. The second time, you should see prices moving to the downside. But if price finds it difficult to move to the downside, at least you can already tell from the reaction that came in from these buyers, and this could be the driving force for prices to move to the upside. So it's always 2 sides to the coin. You can't just look at it from one direction and you think price is going to maintain the flow in that direction. You have to, when you're doing the directional bias thing, you have to look at 2 sides of the coin, not just one side. So that's what I'm looking at right here, and I'll look at it from the hourly. So let's look at it from the hourly. So this piece of price action on the DXY right now it's really messy. So hold on, I'll do something like this. When you look at it from the daily time frame, you have a massive range right here. Once you step down to the hourly time frame, this as well is another range. So you have a massive range and you have a smaller range in here within this massive range. So it makes it really difficult to see what direction price is trying to move to. So on the hourly time frame, we'll do the same thing. We'll look at the reaction from the sellers at this point, another reaction from the sellers. So we had this massive reaction from the buyers, which I showed you on the daily time frame, and that's very important. So we've had a test of this psychological level of 101, and we should normally expect prices to get to say 100. The initial attempt stopped right here from the sellers. Yeah, so we had sellers coming in. We had an attempt from this 101 level. We had prices stopping here. We've had prices testing 101, and we've still seen a halt around this point. So progressively, you can say the sales, the lows are just getting higher, and that's a concern for me. So I said this already on the other time frame. This could be an indication that price will move to the upside. And yes, you normally want to see prices moving from this psychological level to the next psychological level. But if the buyers have more pressure, like if they have more control for this, then you could see prices moving to the upside. But again, going off of the principle of psychological numbers, we should move from one level to the other level, and that's still a possibility. So at this point, I think I have like a 50-50 probability thing on this one. This can go to the upside and this can still drop to the downside. So there's just a lot that is controlling the DXY right now. So when it comes to the DXY, I'll give it a couple of days to see what's going to happen. I'll give it a couple of days, maybe Monday and stuff like that, to see if price moves to the downside to test 100, or price continues to the upside, breaks, has a test of this. Once I see something like this, I know prices is headed to like 102. So that's it for the DXY, and so it's just a 50-50 chance for me on the DXY, and I'll use this again to analyze other pairs. And when you look at the other pairs, you'll probably see possibilities for lots of pullbacks to come in, and that could be an explanation for this move to the upside. So let's look at the first one. So let's look at US30. So looking at US30 from the daily time frame, so what's happening on the daily time frame, where is price currently at, and where is price most likely going to move to? So on the daily time frame, this is very important on US30. So let's see, is there a trend we can work with, and can we combine any trend with our psychological levels? And that's yes. So we've had this level taken out on the daily time frame, giving us this impulsive move, and then a pullback to this trend line. And after this, we've had these levels as well taken out, giving us an impulsive move. So we should expect these prices to keep moving to the upside, and as it moves to the upside progressively, we should have pullbacks coming in as well. So I'm expecting pullbacks on US30, but the overall move on US30 is to the upside. So long term, I'm still expecting the US30. So long term on US30 is a continuation to the upside. So we had this impulsive move, we had a pullback, we've had this impulsive move. We should expect a pullback to come in, and then we look for another impulsive move to the upside. So short term, we should expect this pullback to come in and mimic what happened right here. So we'll move to lower time frames and see if there's any possibility for us to spot the period when, or the area when this pullbacks might start coming in. But right now, long term on US30, I'm still bullish on US30. So short term, I'm going to wait for pullbacks to come in so we can look for possibilities for us to join the buys on US30. So looking at it from the daily time frame, if price is currently trading above 42,000, then the next psychological level I'm looking at has to be 43,000 right here. So if price stays above this point, or if price pulls back to an area like this to test this trend line, we could see buyers stepping in for us to take this impulsive move to 43,000. So we had this impulsive move, we had a test of this, took it all the way to 42,000. We could see some kind of consolidation pullbacks coming in to this trend line on the daily, and then we see prices moving all the way to 43,000. So that's what I'm looking at on US30. So long term we move to the upside, short term we could see pullbacks coming in. So we'll move to the 8-hour time frame, and let me just edit this. So we'll put this on 43 and 43,000. So on the 8-hour time frame, this is the trend I'm looking at. So I had this trend line on the 8-hour time frame, and this is pretty easy. So we had this area taken out, there was a pullback to take out this area, we had an impulsive move, there was a pullback, this area got taken out, we've seen an impulsive move, price pulled back again, so I'm expecting this area to get taken out. So if this trend line maintains, so if we see prices moving to the upside, pulling back to maintain this trend line, then I'll expect prices to go all the way to test 43,000. So the only thing that's going to make me pause a little bit with the buys is if this trend line on the 8-hour time frame gets violated. So if we for some reason see prices doing something like this doesn't mean the trend or the move to the upside has completed. It simply means there is a pause. Just hold on a little bit for these sales to complete, because this violation here could be a pullback on the daily time frame. It could be a pullback on the daily time frame to get prices to react on the daily trend line, and you see prices moving again to the upside. So once we have these pullbacks, you just stay patient a little bit, look at the daily time frame. If price is then reacting from the daily time frame trend line, you could see prices continuing to move again to the upside. So that's how this moves. So that's what I'm looking at. So I have this bias on US30, I have a bullish bias on US30, and I'm going to keep this bullish bias on US30 unless this trend gets violated, telling me pause a little bit, look at the daily time frame and make a decision, because this could be a pullback for us to take prices again to the upside. And I'll probably not take these sales, just depending on what's happening. So that's what I'm looking at on the 8-hour time frame. Let's look at the 4-hour time frame real quick. So the 4-hour time frame and the 8-hour time frame is basically the same thing. So all you see is price moving to the upside, give you this characteristic highs and lows, highs and lows, highs and lows. So we should expect prices to make new highs. So if price finds it difficult to take out these highs, that could be a concern for us. So let's stay on the 4-hour time frame, and I'll show you something right here. So price has taken out this area, it's moving to the upside, and every time price has taken out the highs, price is taking out the highs. If for some reason we have these highs right here and price finds it difficult to take out these highs, then this could be an indication for those pullbacks to come in to to fulfill the trend line on the daily time frame. So we're looking at these highs right now. Price should normally take out these highs. Why? Because every time you have a tap on this, these highs are taken out. Every time you have a pullback to this trend line, these highs are taken out. So if price pulls back and it doesn't take out these highs to close above it impulsively and just showing you like the buyers are still in control, then you should expect prices to then cause a violation of this trend line, maybe a test of this area, and you see prices moving to the downside like this. And then you need to look at the daily time frame to see what's happening. You compare the daily, the 4 hours, 8 hours, and see if price is still maintaining its move to the upside with the daily trend line. If it gets violated as well, then we could be headed all the way to 41,000. But long term on US30, unless that daily trend line really gets violated impulsively, I still have a bullish bias on US30, and it's very okay for us to see sellers coming in. This is simply just a pullback, and this is not any cause for alarm or nothing to be worried about. So that's what I'm looking at on US30. I think that's a 4-hour time frame. I'll look at the hourly time frame, but the hourly time frame for me is just a time frame for entries, so I don't use the hourly time frame for a lot of analysis. I look at the hourly time frame just so I can get a better understanding of price action, to see like the little details of it. So when you look at this on the hourly time frame as well, we had prices moving above 42,000. We had a pullback, consolidation, test of this area. This was a good test, like really good, and now price is moving to the upside. But currently I need to see this highs taken out right here. So we've had this buyers reacting from 42,000. Let's see how price reacts at this point, because price might find it difficult to go through this point, and this could be an indication for sales to come in. At the same time, I'll be looking at the DXY. So if the DXY starts doing something like this, so taking out these highs, it moved to take out these highs, pull back, you could see prices moving to the upside. That could be an early indication that sales are going to come in on US30. So it's really, price is really at the point where I need to pay attention to everything and make informed decisions. So I'm not going to rush on anything. I'm not going to rush on any pairs. I'll take my time and look at it critically and give it a couple of days. You know, sometimes when you give price, say 1 or 2 days to play out, it makes everything better for you, and that way you don't have this anxiety once you get into the trade. So there's a high possibility the DXY could move to the upside, and that could cause this to sell. But if we clear out these highs impulsively, we could see prices moving to the upside, pulling back and giving us movements to the upside. So that's it on US30. So long term on US30, I'm expecting prices to move to the upside, and short term we could see pullbacks coming in. And if these pullbacks are coming in short term and it aligns properly with what's happening on the DXY, I'll go in for those sales as well on US30. Alright, so let's look at NAS100. So NAS100 on the daily time frame, 2 principles again: psychological level, trend line. So let's go off of, say, trend line. So going off of the trend line, we had this impulsive move from the buyers. We had price coming back, looking like a pullback, and we've taken out this area right here on the daily time frame. So normally we should expect, so long term on NAS100, going off of this principle of just say the trend lines, long term we should see prices moving to the upside. But for these prices to move to the upside, we need to sit through certain pullbacks as well. And if I'm going off of what's happening on the daily time frame, there's a high possibility we could see prices pulling back to an area like this for us to take buys again to the upside. So short term on NAS100, I'm expecting buys. Long term, short term I'm expecting sales to test the daily trend line, and long term I'm expecting buys. Now this is an interesting thing. on NAS100. So we had this reaction here from the sellers once price approaches 20,000 level. We've had prices approaching this 20,000 level again, and there's a reaction right here. So with this happening, first attempt from the buyers to go through this area, rejection. Second attempt from the buyers to go through this area. We need to look at lower time frame to tell if the rejection is happening. So, but this is really an early sign that once you have a test of a psychological number one time, you're having it two times, anything two and above, it just tells you price is finding it difficult to go through that area, and you could expect this to happen before this happening. And that's why when you look at the DXY, I'm telling you, there's just a high possibility for this guy to move to the upside. There's just a high possibility for it to move to the upside, because this pairs like NAS, US30 and the S&P, they're all showing you possibilities that pullbacks will come in. So these pullbacks are inevitable because you have this trend line on the daily. For this move to continue to the upside, you must have pullbacks coming in. So this for me just looks like an indication that price might reject at this point, giving us a pullback on the daily time frame for us to look for buying opportunities again for the long-term move. So short term, you could expect sellers to come in. So looking at it, so currently we have this 20,000 level. If price goes above this 20,000 level, we should expect a pullback to this area and a continuation for buys. Now these buys might not be as impulsive compared to the one that comes back to this area and for prices to move to the upside, and I'll show you why. The simple reason is this right here, this move right here, there's a trend that is currently playing out on the 8-hour time frame and the 4-hour time frame. But in terms of the impulse to the upside, this is going to give you a shallow move to the upside, but this right here is going to give you the major move to the upside. So in terms of the volume, in terms of the pressure and everything, the buys that goes off of the daily trend line is better compared to what you see on the 8-hour or the 4-hour time frame. So I'll step down to the 8-hour time frame and I'll show you what I'm looking at. So this piece of price action is what I'm going to look at on the 8-hour time frame to see if the rejection is happening at say 20,000 at this point to take prices all the way to the downside, or to see if this trend line on the 8-hour time frame is still maintaining its move to the upside, and that could be an indication that price is moving to the upside. And if that happens, we might see prices testing this area and you see prices dropping again to the downside. So remember, the DXY is a 50-50 thing for me. So let's look at this on the 8-hour time frame. Cool, so this is it on the 8-hour time frame. So once we zoom out on the 8-hour time frame, price is moving to the upside, impulse, correction, there's an impulse, consolidation, which is just a correction for me to this trend line on the 8-hour time frame. We had another impulse, there was a reaction from the 20,000 level, there was a pullback or a correction to this trend line. So buyers should normally be reacting from areas like this, because price has shown you previously, every time price comes back to this trend line, there's a reaction. So every time price gets here, we should expect buyers to take prices above 20,000. So this is how I look for early indications for possible pullbacks or for possible reversals. So if this has been the norm, so price moves impulsively, pulls back or corrects to this trend line and then takes out the highs, looking at it right here, if this finds it difficult to take out this area like this, this could be an indication for prices to drop to the downside. So that's how I look at it. So as I move progressively from one time frame to another, I'm just connecting the dots. It's like solving a puzzle thing for me, and that's it. So when I do the market focus or when I do my analysis, I'm literally just trying to solve a puzzle, and that's how I build my system. So Let's look at it from the 4-hour time frame. Let's see here. Here's the 8-hour time frame. So the same piece of price action we have on the 8-hour time frame is the same thing I was looking at on the 4-hour time frame. But right now you just have more price action, which makes it really easy because you start seeing details of everything. So we had this move, correction, correction, impulsive move, massive consolidation here, correction, 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 impulsive move. So we could expect, say, another consolidation at this point, correction, 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 and then expect prices to move to the upside. That's what I'm expecting. Now this right here, because we have this psychological number of 20,000, and it's a point of interest for me, so that area of 20,000 could prove to be very difficult for price to break through. So if we move, say, from this area and find it difficult to go through this point, we could see a violation of this 8-hour trend line, and that could tell us get ready for temporary sales to align with the trend, to align with the price on the daily time frame, or to align with the trend line on the daily time frame. So this is a period like right here. Normally it's easy to scale in with the buys here, and once I saw this price action today and I saw this psychological number, I didn't want to go in for a scaling because I had my buys around here. So I had those buys around here. You remember I showed you guys already during the trade recap thing. So right now I was just a little bit skeptical of scaling in at this point because I know there's a psychological number right here and price could find it maybe difficult to go through that level, and if that happens we could see this happening. So normally if I was to go in for a scaling, so let's say we had the top of this area and let's say I went in right here and put my stop loss, say here, so this will have been, say, scaling for me on this position I'm currently holding, and just to see prices moving to the upside. But because we're currently trading close to this psychological number right here, a scaling right here or taking buys at this point is really difficult for me to do, because I know at any given point in time you could see a reaction from the sellers. So an inability of a price to go through a psych number just tells me this trend line will probably get violated. So the only way I'll get involved on a scaling or take another position on NAS100 is if prices move to the upside, taking out this psychological number, pulling back to sit above the psychological number, then I could look for buying opportunities to the upside. So for now I'm just going to hold on NAS100. So long term on NAS100 as well. So long term on NAS100 is to see prices moving to the upside, and that's because I showed you already on the daily time frame. So looking at it, so long term for me on NAS100, impulsive move, correction, impulsive move, expecting a correction. This can come in different forms, can come in like a consolidation, can come like a pullback, but generally I just say everything like this pullback, I call it a correction, I call it a pullback. So all the way to this trend line, and you could expect prices to move to the upside. So that's what I'm looking at long term on NAS100. Short term we could expect pullback. So let's continue on the 4-hour time frame. Now on the 4-hour time frame, let's say this trend line on the 4-hour time frame maintained. So price is moving to the upside, pullback, buyer step in, pullback, buyer step in. If these buyers successfully take out this area right here like this, then I'll expect prices to pull back to test the psychological number, and at the same time test this trend line for us to take prices to the upside. So that's the only way I'll get involved in a situation like this. I know already long-term buys, short-term pullbacks. So that's it on the 4-hour time frame, and that's why I still have my positions open on this, because there's no reason for me to close this. Price is just taking out highs and price has made a high, so I still have my stops at break even So if this finds it difficult to go through this area, starts pulling back, then I'll start thinking of maybe moving my stops to secure some profit and allow price to take me out. So there's just a lot that's still happening on this, and I'm not going to mess my position up. This trend line on the 4-hour time frame is still holding, so there's no need for me to panic right now. And we'll look at this on the hourly time frame. And let's see what's happening on the hourly time frame. I'll take this out. Alright, cool. So on the hourly time frame, it's not a lot I can do, or it's not a lot I can say on the hourly time frame. You can use the same trend we've had from the 4-hour time frame and the 8-hour time frame. So this is a current trend on lower time frames we're working with. We've had a test of this psychological level. You can look at it now on the hourly time frame and you see the details of everything. So we've just had a test of this psychological number. We've had a reaction from the sellers. So normally I like seeing a test of a level, say twice or two times and above, or just 2 times. So this right here is the first test. We should expect prices to test this one more time, and if it finds it difficult, then I'll be like, okay, there's an inability for prices to go above 20,000, so we could expect prices to then move to the downside, taking out this trend line, and that is the temporal move to the downside, or the pullbacks we're looking at. So that's what I'm looking at on NAS100. So long term, it is still a move to the upside. Short term, just wait for those pullbacks to come in and see if we can capitalize or join the buyers again on this one. All right, so with this, we'll look at the S&P. The S&P normally has a similar move with NAS100. So let's look at this on the S&P. I kind of like the S&P just because of where price is at on the daily time frame. So let's look at it, say, from a bigger perspective. So what's price doing currently? Daily time frame impulsive move, pullback. Same thing with what's happening on NAS100. And that's why it's very easy for me to trade NAS on the S&P. If I see a good position on NAS, I just look for the same thing on the S&P and I trade it. I used to do this on NAS, the S&P, and US30, but currently US30 is just a little bit too crazy now. It's doing something different. I know eventually it's going to align, but for now, NAS and the S&P500, these two, they're really moving. They're moving in sync. So we had an impulsive move. This was a high. We had a pullback to this area. This high got taken out, and right now this is a new high. We're currently trading above 5,700. So 2 principles again. The first principle, psychological levels, and the next principle, trend line. So going off of the trend line principle, what's going to happen long term? Long term, we should expect prices to pull back to this trend line for us to see prices moving to the upside, or we see prices pulling back to this trend line. We get a violation, we get some kind of a test of this, and we see prices moving to the downside. That's going off of the principle of the trend line. Now let's use psychological levels and see what's happening. So if we use our psychological levels, price is currently trading above 5,700. If price stays above 5,700, the next psychological level has to be 5,800. Yeah, am I correct? Yeah, it has to be 5,800. Then we could see prices moving to 5,800. So on lower time frames, this could be a possible move. So this continuation could be a possible move all the way to 5,800 before the pullbacks start coming in. So those are all possibilities, and that's how I look at it when I'm doing my analysis and stuff. So price is currently above 5,700. I'm expecting prices to then move to the next psychological level, and I'm just gonna do this. Let's edit this. So this is how easy it is to use psych levels. All you have to do is edit it to the next level. Whereas if I was doing like supply and demand zones, I have to be mapping out these zones on the daily, step down to the 4-hour, use the 4-hour zones. But with psychological levels, you map them on the highest time frame, and that's it. So the highest time frame for me is a daily time frame. So currently we had 5,700, the next level is 5,800, and that's it. Pretty easy. It takes like a few seconds and you have your level to work with. So the next target for me on the S&P 500 has to be 5,800. So if prices has to get to 5800, we can actually look at this on lower time frames and see what's happening. So on the 8-hour time frame, the 4-hour time frame, when you look at this piece right here, you will see a trend that's playing out already, and you can maintain this trend to see if prices will get to 5800. And if you get a violation of this trend, just stay patient, because price is then going to fulfill this daily trend line, and you see another attempt again from the buyers to test areas like this to go higher, or you get a touch of this area on the daily, you get an inability to go above this, and then it's a clear indication for prices to move to the downside. So we'll look at this on the 8-hour time frame. Let me put the 8-hour time frame real quick. So remember, we still have the long-term move on the S&P to the upside, and then short-term we could expect pullbacks to come in. How do you spot these pullbacks coming in on lower time frames? So first you look for a trend line on lower time frames. So now we have this trend line on the 8-hour time frame, and my bias on this still remains bullish long term, unless the daily trend line gets really violated and stuff. So all the sales I'll probably be taking, if I see any selling opportunity, that's just going to be like a temporal sell thing. It's not the main move, it's just a temporal one, so I can participate in the temporal one while waiting for the major move to come in. But looking at it from the 8-hour time frame, impulsive move, pullback, correction, impulsive move, slight pullback. You can't really see it on the 8-hour time frame. Impulsive, pullback, consolidation, impulsive move, correction to the 8-hour trend line. So normally, looking at this from the 8-hour time frame, normally what we should expect is for prices to take out this area right here, for prices to take out this high. And the reason I'm saying so is because price has shown you this already. So the previous moves, when you do price action analysis, like when you study price action and understand how price moves, price has a footprint. So if you look at the footprint, every time it pulls back to this area, it takes out those highs, pulls back, it takes out those highs. And then I'll combine this with another principle right here on the 8-hour time frame. So now, on the 8-hour time frame. So right now we had price pulling back to this trend line on the 8-hour time frame. Now you can combine this. This is a point where you have two major confluences. You have a trend line moving to the upside, you have a psychological level right here. Price tried to move below the psychological number of 5700, and you had an impulsive move from the buyers to take it above 5700. So yes, we've tested this level, and we should expect prices to then move all the way to 5800. So this area right here is the area I'm looking at. Simple question I'm asking myself is price going to take out this high or not? So if price finds it difficult to take out this high, we should expect a violation of this trend line. So this is a principal thing I'm explaining here. So if you have price moving to the upside, making higher highs and higher lows in any trend, you get a pullback. Just going off of the footprint and how price moves, if price is making higher highs and higher lows and pulling back, you should expect this area to get taken out. If for some reason price finds it difficult to take out this area, this could be an indication for sellers to come in, and you could see this trend line getting violated, and this could be your temporal sales right here. So let's look at it from what's happening right now, and I'll move to the 4-hour time frame and show you, and maybe the hourly, and show you just the expectations and what I'm looking at. So this area right here is the point of interest for me, and the question again is price going to take out this area, or is price going to have an inability to take out this area? If price has an inability to take out this area right here, this was a high. If price gets here and has this inability, then we could see a violation of this trend line, and we see prices moving to the downside. Now remember, on the daily time frame we still have the daily trend line. So a violation on the 8-hour time frame doesn't necessarily mean price is reversing or price is headed to the downside. you need to look at all time frames. Sometimes the trend line on the 8-hour time frame can get violated just to align with what's happening on the daily time frame. So when I take those sells, those are temporal sells, but once price gets back to the daily trend line, then I'm looking for the major move again to the upside. So that's something to look out for. So I'll look at this on the 4-hour time frame. 4-hour time frame. So cool. So on the 4-hour time frame, same thing, impulsive move, correction, move to the upside, impulsive move, correction, we should expect a move to the upside. If price cannot take out this area, then a violation will probably set in. We'll test this area of 5700. You go below this area, prepare for sells, just temporal sells, because we still have the daily trend line. So that could be a concern for us as well. So let's look at this on the hourly time frame. Okay, so on the hourly time frame, it's not a lot of analysis I do on the hourly time frame because this is my entry time frame. But just looking at it from the hourly time frame, you have more price action. We've had price moving to this psychological number of 5700. If we get a test of this area, say one more time, and price stays above this area, then we should expect prices to test this area. And if it goes through impulsively, we should see prices moving all the way to 5800. If price has a test of this, or let's say price continues moving to the upside, inability to go above this point, you could see a violation of that trend line and price moving to the downside to fulfill the trend line on the daily time frame. So that's it for the S&P 500. Long term for me, I still have the bullish bias on the S&P 500. Temporarily, I have this bearish bias on the S&P 500. So let's look at the last one. Let's look at gold. Perfect. So I remember last week when was it last week? I remember last week I had two trades. So the first one was this sell. I did a sell attempt around here. It didn't go well, and once I closed this on gold, price took off. We had this bias, and I was sat there thinking, I wish I saw this bias at this psychological number of 2500. I didn't really see it. So price took off, and I was expecting a pullback to get involved on this position, which I did. I showed you guys already. So looking at it from the daily time frame, what's my expectation on gold? Where is price most likely going to move to? And what's price doing currently? So right now we're sitting above 2600. So going off of psychological levels, the next level price can travel to has to be 2700. And going off of trend lines, is there a trend line we can work with? Perfect, correct. Yeah, we're correct to say so. There's a trend line to work with. So looking at it from the daily time frame, we had this impulsive move, correction, impulsive move, correction, impulsive move. So for this move to continue on the daily time frame, for this uptrend to continue on the daily time frame, you should expect a correction to come in for you to see prices moving again to the upside. Now, this might be an impulsive move and you just see prices moving to the upside, but it's not very likely for price to do that. So price tends to move to the upside, gives you this correction, impulse correction kind of thing. So I'm still expecting gold to move to the upside unless this daily trend line really gets violated. So the long-term thing for me on gold again is just to see prices moving to the upside, but short term we could expect pullbacks to come in to mimic what has happened already. So going off of psychological levels, the next level I'm looking at has to be 2700 because we're coming all the way from 2600. So we could get a test of this on lower time frames for it to see prices moving to the upside. So let's look at, say, the 8-hour time frame. So looking at it on the 8-hour time frame, I'm using the same trend line from the daily. So let's look at this. Impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse. We should expect a correction to come in and for prices to move to the upside. Now if this correction comes in and there is a difficulty for price to move to the upside, taking out these highs, then we could expect a violation of this trend line. on the daily time frame and on the 8-hour time frame. We then wait for prices to test 2600, and we could see prices moving all the way to the downside. So that's what I'm looking at on gold, and I think this one is pretty straightforward. It's not as complicated as the indices this week. So let's see, let's look at it from the 4-hour time frame. So 4-hour time frame, we had an impulse correction, we've had an impulse going through 2600. We could expect prices to then move back to an area like this for us to see prices moving to the upside. Or if you have a trend line to work with on, say, lower time frames like the hourly, all you have to do is watch these areas, and if price pulls back to these areas and it doesn't violate this trend line on lower time frames, then you could expect prices to move to the upside again. But then how do you spot these reversals on lower time frames to align with the higher time frames? If you have a trend line here and it gets violated on the hourly time frame, 15 minutes and stuff like that, then you could have temporary sales coming in on gold. So let's look at this on the hourly time frame. So this is a trend line thing I'm talking about right here. So if I put something like this, so that's a trend line I'll probably be looking at on the hourly time frame. So you should expect prices again, highs, impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse. You should expect a correction for another impulsive move. If price finds it difficult to do the buys, you get a violation, then this could be headed for sales on gold. So, and this is something that makes me say, all right, there's still possibilities for the DXY to move to the upside, because when you look at US30, if there's an inability for US30 to take out this area, you could see prices headed to the downside to fulfill the trend we saw, I think, on the daily time frame. You look at NAS100, there's a trend line here. If price finds it difficult as well to take out this area, knowing that we have this psychological number right here, or the psychological level of 20,000, we could see sales coming in temporarily to fulfill that area on the daily, and then maybe the move to the upside. Same thing on the S&P. If price finds it difficult to take out this area, we could see this break, fulfilling this area on the daily time frame, and for prices to move to the upside. So guys, that's what I'm looking at. So the DXY again, 50-50 chance for me, possibility for prices to move to the upside, possibility for prices to move to the downside. So going off of this, guys, I'm just going to watch what's going to happen next week. The first 2 days is going to be very important, Mondays and Tuesdays. So I have positions I'm in already, so I'm just going to manage these positions, sit on my hands a little bit and wait for price to show its hand, and then I'll react from there. All right guys, that's it for this week. If you found this interesting, don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button. See you during the next one. Bye for now.